So, friends, let me welcome you all to this seminar that we are organizing, or the talk that we are organizing today by Professor Rupendra Chattopadhyay, who is presently the Vivekananda Chair, Professor of Social Sciences in University of Calcutta. Uh, he is going to speak to us today on his findings on the archaeology, archaeological finds of in Itkhori, which is in the Chota Nagpur area in eastern India. This talk is being organized under our Understanding History and Culture of India, a series of discussions that we have held over the last few years. And we welcome you all to this, and particularly Professor Rupendra Chattopadhyay, who has agreed to give this talk. Just to introduce briefly the speaker, uh, he has served as the PC Chatterjee Professor of History, Presidency University, and he has held teaching posts including Professor and Head Department of Archaeology at Calcutta University. He began his academic and professional career in the Department of History at the University of Delhi. Besides the major publications of his PhD work, which was titled Bankura, a study of its archaeological sources, recently he published another book, The Archaeology of Coastal Bengal. This was published by Oxford University Press 2018. And he has published several articles and papers in national and international journals, including field reports based on his excavation and exploration projects. A substantial number of joint publications by Mr. Chattopadhyay and his colleagues and students have contributed to the study of various facets of religious history in India. He has done several field-based documentation of archaeological sites, and he has recently published one of his field-based works titled Itkhori, a sculptural and architectural complex in the Chota Nagpur Plateau, 7th to 13th century CE. So today he'll be talking about his findings. As you know, the Vivekananda International Foundation has undertaken a major project called the History of Ancient India. It is a 11-volume series, and which is published under the auspices of VIF and Aryan International Books. These volumes have been edited by Professor Dilip Chakravarti, and these volumes include several chapters by Professor Chattopadhyay. Presently, he has been engaged in bringing to completion his publication on diverse themes, such as Source Book of Satavahana Times, Art History of Coastal Bengal, distribution of memorial stones in the Chota Nagpur Plateau and the fringe areas of Jharkhand and West Bengal, the chronology of published stone tools, and some others. And he is also involved in the reconstruction of Ashutosh Museum collection. I think his presence here is very encouraging for us, because we feel that there is a big gap in India's archaeology. Although we have an Archaeological Survey of India, but I think the Archaeological Survey, although it has done a very good work, but its work needs to be expanded. We need to know more about ancient past, about which no documents exist. But evidence from the ground, which we get through archaeological works, is very important to construct a proper history of India. A lot of history that we have is tainted by Marxist ideologies, and its focus is and emphasis is very different. So unless we work on archaeology, which is really the foundation of Indian history, we will not go very far. So I think people like Dilip Chakravarti and people like Professor Chattopadhyay, they are doing yeoman's service to the country by taking in a very painstaking research, archaeological research, which requires a lot of time and a lot of effort, a lot of brains. Reconstructing the history is not easy. And hopefully the nation will support their effort. I was seeing some reports that the Ministry of Culture had submitted almost a 27,000 crore rupees 5-year plan to the 15th Finance Commission last year, of which about a fourth will go to the Archaeological Survey of India. Of course, the 15th Finance Commission has yet to finalize its report. But the focus on ancient Indian history, on archaeology, is a welcome focus, and I think the government deserves uh, appreciation for that. But these are still early days, and we do hope that all these big plans actually are implemented, enough resources are provided. We need to build this discipline of archaeology, and we need to build a proper history of India, which is yet to be done. Most of history that has been written is through very foreign perspectives, and a lot of it has been written by foreigners in the 19th century, 18th century, early 20th century, and actually it has also given a distorted view of history. But through archaeological research, which is evidence-based and which is objective research, I think we can build our history, and there is a lot yet that needs to be discovered. Another important point is that in India, we do not have any historical sense. Most people, I think, are quite indifferent to history. And we see this happening in these big cities that have come up. And in the process of urbanization, we've also permanently lost our old monuments and our old history in the process. So awareness about history, awareness about archaeology, etc., is also very important, and that is something that the BIF is trying to do. So welcome to this talk by Professor Chattopadhyay, and we will have about half an hour
Yes.
lecture by him, and thereafter we can have question and answers. So we'll try and finish it in about an hour's time. So
Yes.
may I request Professor Chattopadhyay to kindly make his remarks.
Good afternoon to everybody, and namaskar, Dr. Arvind Gupta ji. I have no word to express my gratitude to all officials of Vivekananda International Trust or Foundation for inviting me to deliver a talk on reconceptualizing religious history, archaeological findings from Itkhori, a composite sacred space. Particularly Dr. Arvind Gupta ji, Mrs. Anuttama Ganguly, Dr. Orpita Mitra, definitely they have keen interest about my talk, so that I'm really grateful to them. Here, I have tried to demonstrate some of the basic issue related to the findings, to how one could read religious history of a place in a new ideology. Since the study of history of religion finds itself in a peculiar predicament today. It suffers from poor constitutionalization as well as lack of supportive evidence. On the other hand, there are works, especially premised to theoretical knowledge developed by Marxist historiography, so that Marxist historiography may be strengthen the reconstruction of socio-economic and cultural base, but there are lots of limitations so far as the religious history and its close association with the settlement dynamics is concerned. So that my point is also highlighting how the Marxist historiography failed to add basic data related to the documentation of scriptures as well as sculpture to express the different dimension of religious philosophy and ideology and the participation of the local people. So, therefore, the lack of fundamental evidence to substantiate theoretical outlines have become another features of the present state of the religious history. If you go through the our traditional scholarship that devoted by Binoitosh Bhattacharya on Buddhism, Jain Banerjee and Gopinath Rao on element of Hindu iconography, then you will find the basic data that definitely give us empirical knowledge as well as the different dimension of religious belief and practice, so that supportive evidence, sculptural as well as scriptural. Unfortunately, we fail to add or upgrade the work of our traditional scholarship. So this attempt certainly encouraged the new generation, younger generation, to motivate on the abundant grassroots data and consciously documentation, painstaking documentation to give a comprehensive reconstruction of history is essentially important so far as the religious historical reconstruction is concerned. We need to keep this in mind. If we believe religious is essentially associated with inner sentiment, belief, and practice, then it is very difficult to reconstruct the way religion responded to the societal development uh, or the settlement dynamics or settlement history, that is growth of settlement, both cultural and political, that also responded simultaneously with the religious establishment and the participation of the common people. Marxist historiography certainly failed to trust the religious in the phenomena of religion and employed only the extra religious parameter to understand religion. We should not commit the opposite error either. Social history is to be taken into account along with the inner dynamics of the of the religion. While exploring the religious ideology, we must know about the fundamental knowledge that developed in our traditional historical writing. Today's talk essentially devoted to the presentation of the basic findings recently published in form of a book, Itkhori, a sculptural and architectural complex of Chotanagpur Plateau. I'm the co-author of this book published by Kaveri Books. This existing knowledge of Itkhori, based on its findings recorded so far, identified as a Buddhist establishment. But Itkhori remains to be studied in a proper perspective in the light of data related to the beginning of the settlement history, and so as the gradual process to identify the definite ideological bearing, whether it is Brahmanical or Buddhist, whether Hinduism contributed towards the development of inner dynamics of the settlement history, and the other basic things. Itkhori is situated in the core region of the Chotanagpur Plateau near Ranchi, as you know, and supposedly on the pilgrimage route from Bodh Gaya to Odisha, bridging the early port of Tamolipto. So it is really interesting as such. This is a sacred place, remarkably historical significance. It has remarkable historical significance, and yet to place that in a map of religious history, so that in my work we have tried not only to read the sculptural sources, but also the other associated archaeological sources, how the settlement distribution of settlements in and around Itkhori gradually crystallized and developed in a uh, in a region that became a part of the major religious historical development in Middle Ganga Valley, Lower Ganga Valley, coastal Bengal, and in a mainstream of history on the other side, Mahanadi, that is Chhattisgarh, South Koshal, and even Sambalpur areas of Odisha. So that it's a very interesting one, how Itkhori responded with the development of major religious phenomena that developed in Bodh Gaya, Nalanda, Rajgir, in Bihar area, and even Vaishali region, and on the other hand, Shirpur, Shirpur, Malhar, in the Chhattisgarh region. The habitational and structural mounds of Itkhori lying on the right bank of the river Mohani. Mohani is a tributary of Lilajan, and that is also the distributary or tributary of the Ganga. So it's a very interesting one so far as the regional facets of the area is concerned. So I must now start the PowerPoint, and I'll try to demonstrate how Itkhori data is very convincingly reciprocated with the development of a bigger religious centers in and around Chotanagpur Plateau. But before PowerPoint, I must mention a few other major interesting observation that I used to. Uh, so far as the settlement dynamics of Itkhori region, uh, the region, in one hand, if you go through the work of Dilip K. Chakraborty, the archaeology of Eastern India, particularly Chotanagpur Plateau, and of Jharkhand, Bihar, and adjoining part of West Bengal, there Dr. Chakraborty highlighted the different issues related to production of minerals and other thing of the mountainous zone of Chotanagpur, and bilateral relationship with the Ganga Valley, so that the relationship between plateau and the plain, how reciprocated, and therefore he highlighted the relationship between consumer and the producer. Here also try to develop another facet of settlement, that is the region in and around Itkhori also contributed towards the development of mainstream of historical settlement rather than a so-called isolated zone. So this is the hunch. And here, religious definitely played an important role towards the crystallization of major settlement dynamics. So now I must start PowerPoint. Hello, please start next. Here is the jacket of our books. This book is recently published, and here we have tried to project the entire database in a new way, so that basic documentation of artifacts that recovered from exploration and excavation carried out by Archaeological Survey of India. We have also given the excavation report major contribution by Archaeological Survey of India. We have also tried to put some of the source material related to our own field work. Next. Here is the area, and as I told you, along the bank of Mohani, and here and it is just 55 kilometers from Hazaribagh and inside the Chhatra district. And our investigation is essentially the documentation of Bhadrakali temple complex of Itkhori. That is the conversion of Buddhist to Brahmanical. Though we have lots of materials found inside the temple complex that give us a sense of Brahmanical or the Hinduism at the in and around Itkhori. So it may not be the transformation from Buddhist to Brahmanical or Buddhist to Buddhism to Hinduism. Next. This is the map showing, in one hand, how Bimshila Mahavihar and then Nalanda Mahavihar. So Telehara is another monastery complex, Bodhgaya, and other area that also well connected with Itkhori. And Itkhori also has close connection with the development of Mahanadi. So one can get some idea about the geophysical bearing of Itkhori and its position towards the development of religious world, both Buddhism and Brahmanical world. Next. Here we have tried to put some of the basic settlement, religious settlement, from where we gathered the data in and around Itkhori. So all this dot or the numbering will definitely provide you about the idea, the major settlement of Bhadrakali temple complex of Itkhori and the peripheral settlement in and around. Here I must mention that the site Daihar, Bela Parulia, and other a few sites that also contributed towards the development of the both Brahmanical and Buddhism, but some of the site carries more material on early phase of Brahmanical ideology. Next. Here is a temple complex of Bhadrakali, nowadays worshipped as a Kali temple in the just 1 kilometer away from the village Itkhori. And the Ma Bhadrakali is essentially a Tara image, Buddhist Tara. The skillfully carved image of Tara, worshipped as Ma Bhadrakali, is one of the finest Buddhist icons of Eastern India. This inscribed icon, dated in the 8th regnal year of Palo King Mahendrapal, the later half of the 9th century AD or CE, Pikron, Huntington, Gaurishwar Bhattacharya, and recently Rajat Sannal, they worked on the epigraphic sources and other issues related to the Tara image here, and how the Buddhist monastery is closely associated with the Vajrayana development of Buddhism, and so as the different bodhisattva forms of Buddhist icon that recovered in and around. And they also try to give a look on the synchronization of Buddhist and Brahmanical image worship. So that is also very interesting one. So I hope I'll be able to highlight some of the basic issue, how the composite image played an important role toward the development of the Itkhori as a composite religious cultural zone, and the participation of common people towards the development of major religious center. Next. Here is a Vishnu icon inside the Bhadrakali temple complex. This both the icons could be ascribable to Palosheno period of sculpture stylistically, and this sculpture is made of chlorite stone. And this is a very interesting one. If you go through the iconic form of Vishnu, that is Deo Sadashavitri Mandala Madhavati Narayana Sarasijasana Keraravana Kanaka Kundala Kiritihari Hiranmaya Bapu. If you go through the iconic form that depicted in sculptural form, so that closely related with the scripture and the stylistic iconic form of four-handed Vishnu, Shankha, Chakra, Gada, Padma, and so that with the full bloom pedestal and really the other features is very interesting one, so far as the Eastern Indian school of early medieval sculptural art is concerned. Next. These are the Uma Maheshwara and Shure image inside the temple complex of Bhadrakali. Definitely Shakto Shoibo association, that also is a tantric form of Hinduism, or the Brahmanical, that definitely crystallized in Bhadrakali temple complex, and it's a very interesting one. But we never know, all this image found in situ. But however, so far as our information goes, this sculpture is collected from the temple complex itself. About the Surya image, it is a very interesting one. And this image certainly is an early form of Surya found in Eastern India, so that it could be pre-Palo in date. So that if you go through the Itkhori Buddhist icon, then certainly this icon definitely apparently the earlier one. So this is also our hunch how the both Buddhism and Brahmanism crystallize in and around Itkhori. Next. Here, inside the museum, there is a museum in the temple complex, and this is a very interesting collection. This has a very interesting collection of architectural component or architectural members, definitely the part of the Buddhist monastery complex. And it is also very interesting altogether. However, if you go through this particular image, then you will get some idea that this architectural component depicting Lakshmi and Saraswati. So how a complex, definitely dominating with the monastery assemblages or the other form of Buddhist icon, how the presence of Lakshmi and Saraswati in the same complex, that is very interesting one, and we must think over it. Next. This one is a crown Buddha. It's a crown Buddha image. This is also architectural component. And this is made of pink varieties of sandstone. And this motif shaped display the Dharmachakra Pravartana Mudra form of Buddha, and is in a very fine, well decorated trefoil niche and supported by pillars. So how the entire decoration that also give us the major architectural component prevailed during that time. Next. These are the votive stupa, or the offerings of stupa, generally available in the monastery complex. And one may go through the similar type of stupa available in Ratnagiri in Odisha, Ratnagiri, Lalitgiri, Udaygiri in Odisha, as well as Bodh Gaya, Nalanda, and other Buddhist monastery centers of Bihar. Here is also a Buddha placed in Dharmachakra Pravartana Mudra, and one may assume that all these votive certainly embellish the entire complex of Buddhist monastery that developed in and around Itkhori Bhadrakali temple complex. It's a very interesting one altogether. And if you go through the types of votive, at least 9 separate types of shape and types of stupa found here. Hormika, Chhatra, and then dome, hemispherical dome, and the decorative certainly indicate the pre-Palo and Palo form of sculpture. Definitely is a post-Gupta idioms of artistic excellence. Next. Here is the Mahadevi and the Bharta of Buddha depicted in the pedestal. So it's a very unique pedestal altogether. And this pedestal is certainly contained a bigger image on the pedestal, and how the floral decoration is also very interesting one. Next. Here is another example of beautifully carved, beautifully carved pedestal, and here one may go through the this panel and the pedestals on the panel may not be the in situ. However, Such type of panels we found in form of blocks, at least more than 300 in and around. So one can get some idea about the qualitative working by the artist in and around Itkhori. Next. Votive stupa without embellishment. Next. Here is another interesting iconic form, Shaptamatrika panel, that also depicting Ganesh. And here is the devotee. That devotee is certainly is interesting one. Is pouring water from pitcher on a jar. Or is a very interesting one altogether. And if you go through the Shaptamatrika, this Shaptamatrika is certainly in form of Maheshwari, one of the Shaptamatrika forms. So, Kumundala, Vajra, and other Ayudha on the hand of Devi that indicates the coexistence of Shaiva Shakta or the tantric form of Brahmanism reciprocated with the tantric form of Buddhism. Next. Next. Here is also Saptamatrika panel, and this is the Vishnu image. Is the early Vishnu found at Itkhori. Next. This is the panel depicting other deities. If you go through the Vishnu and Lakshmi and Saraswati, the both side is a very interesting one. Next. This is the decoration, or Kirtimukha is one of the popular decorative items of Itkhori temple complex. Next. This is also depicting musicians in an and there are several such type of panels decorated, and certainly that embellish the entire monastery complex. Next. These are the other collection of the temple inside the museum. Next. Mahadevi is another architectural component. Next. That is also the base of Bhotip Stupa, that also depicting Mahadevi. Next. It is also the interesting inscribed base of Bhotip Stupa complex in Bhumishwar Mudra. Next. Inscribed pedestal depicting Shaptamatrika. So this is also very interesting one. Next. Buddha panels. There are several number of such type of specimens. So, scarcity of time, I'm just very few examples cited here. Next. This is the dome types of stupa, but generally used for the stela of a image. Next. The dancing figure depicting dancing figures. Next. Here is another interesting depicting several number of Dhani Buddha in Bhumisparsha Mudra, maybe counted more than 1,000 miniature piece of so it's very interesting one. Next. This is the Shastra Lingo in the same temple complex. We have counted 1008 lingos depicted in the series of circle in this lingo. It's a very interesting one and still kept in the modern temple complex. Next. Architectural fragment. Next. So other sites, and this is the hero stone or the memorial stone, little away from temple complex, suggest the presence of ruling authority and their contribution towards the development of Itkhori region, both Brahmanical and Buddhist. Next. This is the Karni assemblage. Is a very interesting site altogether. A completely Brahmanical one. Surya, then Umamasha, Ganesh, Vishnu, every. So that if you go through the Pancho Upasana system of religious practice, so then you will find how the Panchopashana system of Brahmanical religious sentiment that developed in that area. So therefore, it is a very consistent part of the development of religious establishment in and around Itkhori. Next. Next. In the same site, from the same site. Next. From Karni. Now it is another complex, little away from Karni, that also, but this Vishnu is little late, and it could be, it also important, the continuity of Brahmanical tradition, Brahmanical ideologies in and around 13th century AD, that definitely signify the later date of Vaishnavism in that area. And I must mention that Sri Chaitanya Dev visited Jharkhand, and possibly this region that we have counted more than 40 such Vaishnava images we have found. Definitely, that was the traveling route of Sri Chaitanya Dev from Goya to Nilachal. So that is a very interesting one altogether. Next. Mamashar and architecture. Next. 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 All these are interesting one because lack of time. This is another complex of Baragaon. It's a very interesting one altogether, both Brahmanical and Buddhist, and Omoloko and other architectural components suggest the temple and Buddhist, both Buddhist and Brahmanical, that developed here. Next. 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 Bela Parulia, another site, is also very interesting one. So far as the rise of Buddhism, rise of Vaishnavism is concerned, this site carries more than 12 pieces of Vishnu images. Next. Next. All these are Vishnu. And Ekomukho lingo is a rare type of phallic worship developed in that area. So this is also very interesting one, the site Bela Parulia. Next. 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 Lori is another interesting site. Here is also, we must see the Tara image in the now worship as a Shashti. So therefore, the area, the temple is known as Shashtithan, the worship of Shashti, was place of worship. And it has a generic relationship with the Bhadrakali collection. Next. Very interesting Vishnu image. Next. A very interesting Narasimha in the Hajaribagh. This is also the Mukhalinga. Next. Next. Buddhist sculpture of Swara. Next. Avalokiteshwar. Next. This is an interesting image inscribed Ashto Mahabhayo Tara. This is one of the finest Tara image found inside the Chotanagpur area, and it has close relationship with the Ashto Mahabhayo Tara found in Ratnagiri in Odisha. And Ashto Mahabhayo Tara is essentially depicting the 8 fears, including the seafaring activity, how to protect the navigators from any natural calamity. So that Ashtomahabharatara, the presence of Ashtomahabharatara certainly indicate the trading network between Itkhori region to coastal area. So this is a very interesting one, and we have studied and in our book you will get some more information how this type of image in Eastern India giving a new look on the seafaring activities along the coastal trade route. Next. Umamasher, next. This is the Marichi is essentially another Buddhist image, and Daihar is a very major sculptural site, and Daihar is also is a very interesting village farming site, and we have plenty number of evidence related to it. So Marichi that also prevailed in that area. Next. Manjusri and Brahma. So how the synchronization is going on. Next. Bhoti Stupo. Next. This is the assemblages, Buddhist and Brahmanical cultural remains. Next. Next. Inscribed pedestal. Next. It is also inscribed pedestal found in here, and Daihar is certainly was a big center of religious activity, both Brahmanical and Buddhist. So that is a very interesting one. How the parallelly operative religious system accepted by the common people. So that also raised a question about the religious history of this region. Next. Okay, this is the last one. Am I right? Yes.
Yes, sir.
I hope throughout my presentation, I have tried to demonstrate the widespread transmission of motifs signifying diverse iconic programs related to sculptural and architectural activity during the 7th to 12th century AD, especially in South Bihar Plain, Plateau region, surrounding central India, and so as the other parts of Bengal and Odisha, particularly Chhattisgarh area. The presence of 2 distinct sub-schools of art production, and we have identified Madhyadesha school of scriptural form dominated here, and therefore we may assume that the followers of fathers and sons of craftsmen, Diman, Bitpal, as referred to by the writing of Taranath in 17th century Tibetan historian, and how all these diverse component of iconoclastic art that provide another scope of study to write the synchronization as well as assimilation of different religious ideologies. Here we must mention that Jainism is was also very much popular so far as the Chotanagpur and adjoining areas is concerned. Unfortunately, in and around Itkhori, we have very few examples, but we never fail to mention that is Koleshwari, Koluha, and other major Jain center is not far away from Itkhori, so that Jainism is also contributed toward the development of religious sentiment, thoughts, and beliefs. So I hope in my brief note, I shared some of my feelings, but all these are preliminary, and I'm asking your feedback to develop a new historical notes on the religious history, so that this is my hunch. So again, I must convey my and I'm extremely sorry for that. I'm not very much accustomed with the online presentation, so that it is also very one.
So thank you very much, Professor Chattopadhyay. You have, through your slides, given us glimpses of some exquisite sculptures. It's really wonderful to have a look at them. And it's unfortunate that we have so little time to discuss this further. But let me see, there are some comments already. People have liked your presentation. So, Samarjit to everyone. Sir, the Vishnu icons have very high crown and large, what is it, Vajantimala, which is a unique characteristic of Pallava dynasty Vishnu sculptures. Though it looks like all other sculptures, has an influence of Mathura school of arts. Why the Vishnu icon has influence of South India? What kind of stones are used? So these are the questions. Then after that, I'll go to Arpita.
Actually, the growth of Vaishnavism and the contribution of Vaishnavacharya in that region is a very interesting one. And well, though it's a very difficult question altogether, and sometimes I feel the Mathura school of art maybe worked on the image worship, but if you go through the belief and practice and participation of common people in Vishnu image worship, then it may be a different story altogether. So that it is my I don't know actually how the Pallava dynasty's Vishnu as bearing with that one, but definitely the Shaivacharya tradition contributed a lot towards the development of Shaivism, so that Vaishnavacharya system that also prevailed in both South India, Eastern India, and so as the Middle Ganga Valley, including Mathura. So that the philosophy of Vaishnava thoughts that certainly you may accept in a position that how the Sri Chaitanya Dev could be the contribution of Chaitanya Dev towards development of Vaishnavism could be visualized in same vein.
Yeah, thank you. So there are two other questions, and in fact, I also wanted to ask exactly the same questions.
What kind of stone? Actually,
Why do
stone
why do
used.
you can read those questions, or shall I read it?
Yes. What kinds of stone are used here? Basically, Cunard sandstone, pink colored sandstone for Buddhist, most of the Buddhist image, and some of the Buddhist image also chloride stone, phyllitite chloride, and most of the Brahmanical icons prepared on the chloride stone and some of the local variety that is sandstone, gray sandstone.
Yeah.
The
So
next question is, are the sculpture made of same stone because of Vishnu icon found a little bit different? Actually, yes, I agree with you. Uh, Possibly, the choice of Vishnu image of basaltic stone or the Koshti Pathor, that could be particularly they had the choice of Vishnu image, and therefore most of the chloride stone is darkish or the dark gray in color. Also, Rajmahal basalt could also be locally available, found locally available rocks in and around Ranchi, Chandil area is a major source of raw material, and one can get more sources along the bank of Damodar, Darakeshwar, and Subarnarekha Valley. That is very interesting. We have two questions. Why do scholars refer to it as a Brahmanism instead of Hinduism? Actually, Hinduism is a broad canvas. And when we are performing Hinduism, then we concentrate on the scriptural forms or the belief and practice that developed in form of Brahmanas. For example, Chattopadhyay Brahmana, Aitareya Brahmanas, so that the Puranas and the other later Vedic as well as the Sastric form of religion that persuade the Brahmanical mode of production or the Brahmanical thoughts. Therefore, it is my hunch that Buddhism, Hinduism that definitely depict the broad canvas of religious ideology, and Brahmanical in sense of practice as well as the image worship. So that this is also my tentative. I don't know whether you will agree or not. What light does the iconography throw on the history of religion, especially on the context of Hinduism? Actually, uh, religious syncretistic icon is available here, and you must know Shakto Shoibo assimilation, as well as the Vishnu development of Vaishnavism that crystallized in and around Itkhori. While you are talking about iconic form, for example, uh, mm, Ganesha. Actually, if you go through the Ganesh image, then you'll find the typical image worship that prevails Smarto Brahmanism or Smarto Puranic Brahmanism. That is Kharbang Stulotonu Gajendra Badanang Lambudaram Madagandha Lupto Baloloi Gandasthalam Dantagate Vidaritu. So that all these mantras, if you chant the mantras, then you'll get enough clue how the depiction, cultural depiction followed the roots of Smarta Brahmanism. So that this is also the, according to Kollan Kumar Dasgupta, another scholar, this is also the later form of Brahmanism and assimilation of Tantric as well as the Shakto Shoibo form. And if you go through the other one, that is rise of uh, Vaishnavism, here is another clue I must refer to, that is the ahimsa developed by the Jaina ideology in and around Itkhori that also influenced and prevailed in the rise of Vaishnavism in the same area when the transformation of devotees from Jainism to Brahmanism or Hinduism, this period of transformation or conversation possibly indicate ahimsa, that is the major, and they are strictly vegetarian as such. So that is my yeah. So I hope the most of the questions I covered.
So there is one question on
How do you determine the time? Oh, sorry, I forgot to mention that. Actually, the first clue is the presence of inscription. So that inscriptional data that categorically provide the paleographic, so that the paleography of 16, 17, 600, 700 AD, so that one form. And while exploring the other areas that also give us the clue of some inscription of Proto-Bengali, that is 12th, 13th century AD, the one. Second thing is stylistically, while we are talking about post-Gupta, we are trying to borrow the major stylistic approach developed in Central India, so that Central Indian phenomena as well as the Mahanadi, that is South Koshal region, that is Shirpur area, that also influence the stylistic one. And on the other hand, Palo Sheno's sculptural form of art that also dominate the image worship, particularly the Vishnu image. So that provide the basic data related to the chronological framework of our database.
There's another question about can you read that? The archaeological yeah. The archaeological remains at Itkhori.
How do you determine the time historicity of archaeological findings? Are you doing?
No, the next one after that.
Yes. That is a very different question. However, it is my interesting point to be record that most of the site carries habitational area, so that there are at least two settlements excavated by Directorate of Archaeology, Jharkhand, under the leadership of Ajit Prasad, and there we have
Sir, my
1000
name is
BC is the
Shreyoshi.
date
I
of
have two questions.
the beginning
One
of
question
settlement.
is the panel where you showed the musician beside.
Yes, yes. And no,
Speaking.
we have no C14 date, but there are few C14 dates collected from other settlement found in and around. And
And there
one
is
hand, and
there is
second thing
another
is
question
during
is
the
when you showed
excavation,
the
during the
Calcutta panel.
excavation
Please,
at
please.
Itkhori by Archaeological Survey of India, they made the stratigraphy, and they also ascribed the entire stratigraphy post-Gupta and Palshan period.
Okay, there's one question which says,
Huh.
can the archaeological findings explain the decline of Buddhism in the region?
Buddhism, actually, these are the monastic complex that developed the core area of Chotanagpur, and it has bearing with the major development of Nalanda, Rajgir, then Bodh Gaya, and then Shirpur, then Ratnagiri, Udaygiri, Pushpagiri in Odisha. So that archaeologically, all this settlement could be read as a monastic, as the monastic development or settlement. So the monastic lifestyle, their food habit, their utilitarian household object, and everything one may read the characteristics of different habitational area, and one may differentiate between the Ganga Valley monastic complex with that of Plato monastic complex. But we have very little idea about the total archaeological assemblage since we failed to excavate any of the rich archaeological site like Daihar and other. So I hope in future we may, and I'm asking the new generation as well as institution to work on this area. Lots of things left out by us. It is just a mere documentation of few sculptural and architectural specimens, and we are trying to highlight a region that may give us the potentiality of religious history, reconstruction of religious history in the so-called or apparently isolated zone of Chotanagpur Plateau.
Okay. So I think we'll now end this very interesting discussion here by thanking Professor Rupendra Kumar Chattopadhyay. Thank you very much for enhancing our knowledge
Thank you,
about
sir. Thank you.
Itkhori.
I have no word to express my gratitude to you for
No,
your
no,
keen
we
interest.
are grateful to you. We are grateful to you that you brought such esoteric knowledge to us who are otherwise not well informed about these things. And we do hope that, as you said, the younger generation,
Yes, yes.
they
My
take up.
interest is also to work together
Yeah.
on the area in future, and there are more sites in and around.
Thank you very much, and thank you to all the participants, and thank you, Arpita, for organizing this. Thank you very much.